Hi, I'm Jodi Okun, and welcome. It's Tuesday, January 12th, and I'm thrilled that we're here for our very first FAFSA webinar, our free application for federal student aid. And I think what we're going to do today is we're going to go line by line through the entire application. So grab your notepad, grab your pen. If you're like me, you're scratching notes all over the place. And we're going to get started right away because I really want to leave room for questions at the end. I've created some slides for you with different scenarios, so hopefully that will help you. And then also I want to reach out to you. We are going to be tweeting in hashtag College Cash, so if you want to ask questions on Twitter, you can do that. We'll be fielding those, and we'll kind of just get started right away so that we have time at the end for questions. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I have been in financial aid for over 10 years. I used to work at Occidental College and Pitzer College as a financial aid consultant. So I bring to you that inside scoop, kind of behind the curtain look at what it is that financial officers are looking at and what the application, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. So when you're filling it out with your student or helping your student or students, if you're here, I'm so thrilled that you're here. If you're filling out, you can help your parents fill it out. So I'll go over both versions of how that looks for you, and let's get started. So when you go to fafsa.ed.gov, you're going to be able to see this screen. So you'll see the application. You'll also see a Start New FAFSA button. You'll also see a login button. If your student is a high school senior, they'll want to start a new application if they haven't started it. If your student is a continuing student, they can go ahead and click the login button. If your student is going to grad school, if you're a student and you haven't really gone on the application yet, then go ahead and use the Start a New FAFSA and you can get started, okay? And then you're going to see this screen. So this is brand new for this year. This is the login screen. And if you select the button on the left, you're going to use your FSA ID. The FSA ID is brand new for this year. In the past years, we've had a PIN. This year, we have an FSA ID. If you haven't created your FSA ID yet, you can click where it says enter the student's information. And students, you can put your first name, your last name, your social security number, and your birthday. And whenever you're using this application, you want to use the next button. Don't use enter or the space key or the back button. Always click next. So we're going to go ahead, and I have the great habit of always saying the word next, so I'll go ahead and say next as we go along. Here's a bit about the FSA ID. So if you use your browser and you type in create an FSA ID, or you can use it straight from the application, from your free application for federal student aid, you can create an FSA ID. The student needs an FSA ID that is with their email address. They'll put their email address, confirm their email address. They'll put a username, a password, and confirm it, press continue, and move on through the series. The parent is also going to need to sign the application, so they'll need to create their own FSA ID, and I'll show you how that works when we get to the end of the application. So a student FSA ID and a parent FSA ID, okay? And then we'll go next. I'm going to show you some examples as we go along, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And, this is what Jodi said. And what does she mean by that? I'm definitely a visual learner. And so I think everyone out there is a visual learner. And it's so great seeing everyone attend. Thank you so much. It's good to see so many people here tonight, and great to see familiar faces too. So here's the screen. If you're going to go ahead and put your students, the student's going to put their first name, their last name, their social security number, and their birthday. And anytime you see this blue sort of border around it, this is the student section. So they're always asking for student information when you see the blue border, okay? And then you'll get to this screen. And this screen is if students are seniors in high school and they are starting a brand new application, they can push Start 2016-17. And if students are going to be returning students, they also might see a renewal button in that place so they can renew the FAFSA if they need to. This year is brand new. They have a create a save key. So the save key can be whatever the student would like the save key to be, and then you re-enter the save key. So anytime the student is logging in or logging out, or if you're not able to finish the application on the first go around, you can create the save key and put it in. It'll ask for it. It'll move you on into the application. And what I love about this page, the introduction page, has so many answers to all the questions that everyone has. So if you're able to click on some of the links, you'll see how to sign the application, how to complete the application, maybe even some questions. So feel free to browse these links. I think that they're very helpful. And the other thing is, if you have any questions while you're filling it out, you can call them. They're so nice. You can also live chat them. So feel free to reach out to the FAFSA helpline and also to colleges if you have a question and your student is a returning student, or maybe they're a new incoming student, or maybe we have some junior parents here who are just really excited to knowing that there's a change coming on, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later, that they want to kind of get a jump on it. So feel free to ask questions, and everyone wants to help everyone out so that they can get the financial aid that they're eligible for. So here we are in the blue section, and I think if we were all seeing each other's eyes right now, we'd be like, okay, what section is this? This is the blue, so we mean that it's the student section. And when we're in the student section, they're going to ask specific questions. So they're going to ask the student's last name, the student's first name and middle initial, and then the student's social security number might be populated depending on when, how you entered the application. And also the student's birthday might also be populated. So you can double check that to make sure that it's true. And then whether the student is a male or female, and their mailing address, city, state, and zip code. Also, if they've lived in the state that they've lived in for at least 5 years. And what is the student's telephone number? You can use a home phone number. I've had some parents ask me, is it okay if we use a cell phone number because we don't have a home phone number anymore? Absolutely. Feel free to put in whatever number is the most reachable number. Most colleges are probably going to email the student if they have a question. And I just want to take a little break from the application. I see that you guys have posted questions already, and we're definitely going to answer them, but I am going to save them for the end, as we're going to try and answer them all at the same time, because I'm sure if one person has a question, we'll all have a question. So moving right along, there's the email address, and that's the student's email address, and then it's a smart form. So once you put in the email address, another screen will populate, and you'll have to put the student's email address, or students, you'll need to put your email address in next time. Okay, and Alex is also trying to answer some questions that are up. So if you want to ask your question, Alex will go ahead and she'll feel free to just type the answer for you. I'll help her with that too. And then what's the marital status of the student? So if the student is single, they'll go ahead and it'll drop down and give them options. And then if we have some adult students here who are married, then you'll go ahead and select your marital status. And then does the student have a driver's license? You'll want to provide the driver's license. It's yes or no. Financial aid is not based on a driver's license, but they do collect that information. So the next page talks about student eligibility. So is the student even eligible for financial aid? So it goes through a series of questions. First, it asks, are you a US citizen? And it does give a drop down of other answers, but I am just giving you sort of a glimpse into the application. And then if the student is male, the students are requested to sign up for selective service. So if they're 18, they need to sign up for selective service. And if they haven't signed up yet, the form does offer a register me section, so they can select no and then register me. So this part of the application will only show if the student is male and they selected that on the previous page. And then it goes on to ask more questions. So it says, when the student is going to be in college in 2016-17, what will they have? And so if you're a senior student filling out your application, you're going to say, I have a high school diploma. And if you're a continuing student, you'll say you might also have a high school diploma. And then I am using the example here on my side about grade level. So we're tracking a student who's a senior in high school. So we would say that student never attended college. This is their first time. So I just want to welcome everyone who's here. We're thrilled to see everyone here. And we're just going through the student section of the application. Are you interested in being considered for work study? Yes. Work study is only offered on this free application for federal student aid. So you would want to select yes if you're interested in work study. And will the student have another first bachelor's degree before they begin school in 2016-17? So they might not. So if this is a senior high school student, they might not. But if you're a continuing student, you might. Is the student in the foster youth care system? So for this particular example, we're saying no, they're not in the foster care system. And then after that, it talks about parent one or parent two. So this is parent one, their biological parent has completed college, and parent two, biological parent has completed college. Okay, and I know that brings up some other points and questions, so we'll go to the next screen and we'll talk about that as we go along. Okay, this is a section for the high school that the student is either attending or has attended. So you'll go in and type the high school, where it's located, the city and state, and you'll press that confirm button. And then as an example to show you, this student goes to Wilson High School. This is the city. It's in New Jersey. So we'll select the school, we'll confirm, and then we'll hit the next button and go on to the next page. Here is the college section. So in this section, and I have a few examples too for you, if you know the school name and the city and the state, you'll go ahead and you can type those in or select the state dropdown. And if you have the federal school code, you can go ahead and select federal school code and type it in and press search. And then what happens when you press next is all the colleges in that state will appear. So for this student, we're just looking for Wisconsin, and we know that the student's going to apply to University of Wisconsin, and we found it. So you go ahead and put a blue check in the University of Wisconsin. You click the add, and as you see on our next screen, the University of Wisconsin moves over to the right side of the screen. And then you can go on and add more schools just like that until all the schools are entered. This application only takes 10 schools at a time. So if you have more than 10 students at the schools that the student is applying to, you would go ahead and send the application in with the first 10 schools. You would wait to get your confirmation. And then 2 days later, you'll get an email with your student aid report. And then you can go back into the application and you can remove the schools, some of the schools, and put the rest on. This is the first year where the colleges will not be able to see the schools that the student is applying to. So I know that was a big topic of conversation. So I wanted to let you all know who are here that schools will only see their own school on the application. And if you ever want to add a school, you can go ahead and add a school at any time. You can also reposition the schools and put schools in a different order if you like that. I think alphabetical order works great. And then we'll hit next. Now we're still in the blue section, and now we're going to talk about, is the student an independent or a dependent? And in order to do that, we have to answer all 13 questions. So was the student born before 1993? And so for our scenario right now, our student has not been. Is the student married? Is this particular student, do they have their master's right now? And hold on one second. And is this particular student, do they have children they support or dependents or a spouse? Are they in the active armed forces? And remember how earlier I said that this the application is a smart form, so it'll lengthen or shorten depending on how you answer the questions. So no, the student will not be serving in the active armed forces. So then the form goes ahead and lengthens, and this student is not a veteran of the armed forces, and both their parents are not past, they're not a dependent or a ward of the court. They are not an emancipated minor in a legal guardianship at the risk of being homeless or self-supporting at the risk of being homeless. So since all these questions are no, then what's going to happen is when you move to the next screen, this will say, now we've determined that this particular student, in our scenario for today, everyone, that this student is a dependent student. And so since they're a dependent student, you need to provide parents' information. And then the second paragraph is sort of a disclaimer. So it says, if you have a special circumstance, let's say something's going on in your family that you want the college to know about, that's unique, maybe there's a medical circumstance or something that's unique for your family, you don't let this form know. You let the college know and tell them about the special circumstance. This form is only going to take in the information that it has, and also it does not have like a box where you can type in comments. So you'll go ahead and select, I will provide my parents' information, and you'll click the next button. And now you'll see that the border has changed to this purple color. So now whenever you see this color, you'll know that you're in the parent section. And I did create, thinking of everyone who's here today, and it's so good to see so many familiar faces. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this is being helpful for you guys. And please, put your questions in the question queue, or you can chat questions to us below. Alex and I will try to get to them absolutely during the whole webinar. And then we'll be answering questions at the end through email and on Twitter. So welcome if you're new and you just arrived. I'm happy to see you. So now we're in the purple section, and I did, like I said, I did create some scenarios for you because I know that this gets lots of questions come up here. So as of today, what is the marital status of your biological or adoptive parents? So that's the first question you're going to answer, and there'll be a drop down for that. And then you'll want to pick a parent's email address, just like the main email address where someone, if needed, can answer questions if needed. And this particular scenario, we're using the state of California. So has this family or mom or dad or both parents lived in California for at least 5 years? And then how many people are in your household? So are you a family of 5 with 2 parents and 3 students? Are all the students, maybe the oldest one is going to college and you have 2 younger students, or maybe one's in college and now you have another one going to college. So then you would have 5 in the family and 2 going to college and 1 still at home. So there's different ways that this can be answered, but it's how many are in the household and how many students are going to college. And this is not if a parent is going. So if a parent is going to college, they don't go in this second section of how many. This is only students in the house. If it's a parent, they would fill out their own application and they would answer as themselves and their student. So now we're going to go to next, where I've created some examples of families who, have asked questions at several of the financial aid nights that I've been doing the last couple weeks. So we'll go with this particular family. As of today, the marital status of this mom, she's currently divorced, and it asks the month and year that she was divorced. So we would go ahead and put in the month and year. And then, like I said, the form now shrinks and you have mom as the provided information, her social security number, her last name, her first name, and her birthday. And then mom's email address will be asked. And then another box will drop down and you'll enter in mom's email address again. And then for this sample, has mom lived in California for at least 5 years? She has. And then how many people she has in her household and how many students are going to college. Now, here's another example that I made for you guys, which is this is a 2-parent household. So in this specific situation, the parents are married, and they'll enter the month and year that they were married, and then parent 1 would enter their social security number, last name, and first initial and birthday. And then parent 2 will be asked their social security number, their last name, their first name, initial, and their birthday. And then their email address, have they lived in the state that they're filling it out for at least 5 years, how many are in their household, their size of their household, and then how many are going to college. Okay, so I hope that helps. It was like a single family and then 2 people as parents in the household. And then it moves on to this section where we're beginning the tax information section. So using mom still as that one example that we had before, she's going to select if she's going to will file a tax return, whether she's already completed or not going to file. So for everyone who's here today, if you've filled out your application and sent it in, I'm thinking that you're probably going in as will file, that you haven't completed your tax returns because maybe you don't have your W-2s, and the application expects that you're going to use estimated numbers to submit your application. So we'll go ahead and show you another example. So this mom will file her tax return. She's going to go ahead and select will file. And she's also going to select her filing status, which is household. And then when she's done completing her tax returns and she's already completed them, then she will go back into the application and change her will file 3 weeks after the date that she electronically files to already complete it. Okay, and we'll show you that page on the next slide. So just to kind of address the little green button at the top, that is the IRS tool. So if you are filling out your application for this month and you are using estimated numbers, you are going to need to go back into your application and select already completed once your taxes are already completed, and move to this screen and click the green button with the 4 little dots. Once you do that, you're going to magically be transferred to the IRS site. You're going to pull your tax return and you're going to populate your application with correct numbers. But for right now, as you can see in the little blue income estimator, we're using estimated numbers. So this mom is going to fill out a IRS 1040. She's going to use her adjusted gross income from 2014 to estimate her 2015. So if you do have your W-2s or 1099s and you're filling out your application this week and you know what your 2015 gross income will be, then feel free to enter that. If you're not sure and you think that your wages and income is going to be the same as 2014, you can use 2014. And what's great about the application is it does give you a little hint of where to look. So your adjusted gross income is located on line 37, and your total earned work from wages is listed on line 7, 12, and 18. So if parents have other numbers besides line 7, they can also add in 12 and 18 to give them the total income wages. And this is for just a one-parent scenario, okay? And then the next question talks about whether this mom is a dislocated worker. And dislocated can mean whether she's unemployed, something happened with her job, she had a loss of job. And any time that you're on the application and you hover or put your cursor in the box, a help box will pop up right next to it. And it'll give all the directions of what you need to do or what you can do or what you don't need to do for that particular box. So feel free to take your cursor and put it in that box and read the help if you have any questions. And then because of this family's income, it did lengthen the form and ask, are there any federal benefits that this mom is receiving and she's actually not receiving any? And then is she eligible to fill out a 1040A or a 1040E? And she's not eligible. So then she would complete the page and she would press next. Right. So we're going to go to the next page. And I'm also, just so you know, I did do an example of a two-parent income too. So stay tuned for that. We'll get to that. The next question talks about line 56. So this is your total tax. So if you look on page 2 of your tax return, it'll have line 56, and now it's 56 minus 46. So whatever's on that line, you'll go ahead and put that into the application at that point. And this particular one had a 0. And then how many exemptions? And that's 6D. So you'll go ahead and look at 6D, whatever the number is, you'll put in that box. And then the first green box talks about additional financial information. Are you receiving any American Opportunity Tax Credit, child support paid, taxable earnings from work study, assistantships or fellowships, college grant scholarship aid reported to the IRS, combat pay, special combat pay, or cooperative education programs? Anytime you put a check in the box, that means it will drop down and you'll be able to add a specific amount. Untaxed income. Are you making payments to a tax-deferred pension or retirement savings? You could put a check there, and if you are, then you would put the amount in there, and it'll give you directions exactly how that should go. And then IRS deductions or payments to your SEP or Simple, you would go ahead and put a check box there and a check in the box, and then it'll have a drop down and you'll put that in there. Child support received, if you have interest income, untaxed portions of your IRA distributions or pensions. If you're a clergy and you're receiving housing, food, or living allowance, you could mark that. Veterans, non-education benefits, or other untaxed income. Anytime you put a check, it'll drop the box down and you'll put in the amount. And then on the lower section, it talks about, as of today, does the total amount of mom's current assets exceed $9,200? So this is the day of filing. So if your assets exceed that amount, then the drop downs will open and you'll put in cash, savings, and checking, and you'll also put in investments. And remember how I talked about earlier about putting your cursor in there? So you'll put your cursor in there and it'll explain exactly what investments to include. You do not include your house or your retirement. You include your assets. And if you own another house or other real estate, you would take the value minus what you owe and put that in and add that to your assets. And then the last line talks about, does mom have a current business or investment business investment? Is she self-employed? Does she have over 100 employees or own a farm? If so, you can put in the amount there, value minus what is owed will be the actual asset. And again, if you have questions about that, you can put your cursor in there. The help will pop up, or feel free, like I said earlier, everyone at the Department of Ed, they're amazing, they're helpful. They will help you answer any of those questions if you're not sure of what to put, or you can actually call the college and they're happy to help you too, okay? So we'll move on. I hope you guys are keeping up and taking copious notes. And now we get to the student section, because you see the blue again. So we'll go through the student section, and then I think Alex and I agree that we have some room for questions. I know she's been typing away, answering questions for everyone. You'll be able to put them in the chat or in the question section. And we actually have some questions that some friends of ours have emailed, parents have emailed, students have emailed. So I do want to give them a shout out, because I know that they're listening and they have specific questions that they want me to answer. So I'm going to happy to answer those too. So we're moving on. This is the student section. Will the student fill out a tax return? So you'll select whether the tax return, it's a yes or a no, will file, already completed, not going to file. So those are your three options, okay? And how much did the student make in work and wages? So let's just say this student in particular is not going to fill out a tax return, but they did work at the local grocery store, and they are going to receive a W-2, and maybe the W-2 is only going to be $250. So you would go ahead and put that $250. But on the previous screen where we talked about, maybe you selected not going to file, and that's absolutely fine. You're just going to want to make sure that you account for the work and wages that the student is going to earn. And then it'll move you on to the next box, and you'll see how this kind of looks like that purple page we used for the parents. And I also created some scenarios for you for students also. And so, is the student receiving more financial information? They're trying to find out, is their child support paid or child support received? And this is not if the parent is receiving it. You won't want to mark this off also. College grants or scholarship, combat pay, cooperative education. Is the student making payments to a tax-deferred pension, housing, food, or living allowance, veterans, non-education benefits, other untaxed income? So anytime that the student is receiving any of these, they'll check the box, and then another drop down will appear. And then how much does the student have in cash, checking, and savings? So this particular student had $40. And anytime a student does have a UTMA or a UGMA, that is actually listed in the student section. It's not a parent asset. So that's where they would list that in this middle box here, what the balance is as of today in the UTMA. And then, does the student own a business or a farm? And they would enter in the asset value there. And I set up some examples for you. So this is a student who will file a tax return, and they are going to file single. So the student worked, and then once the student has submitted their tax return, not only are you going to need to log back into the application and draw your tax return into the parent section, but you'll also have to log back into the application and draw in the student's tax return using the green buttons at the top, and it will populate the student's income below and what form they used, whether they're going to use the IRS 1040A or an IRS 1040EZ. And then depending on the application that or the tax return form that they're using, they'll put in what their income was, their gross income, and what their wages, salaries, and tip is. They'll also, if they have any tax, they'll put that in there. And if they're exemptions, if you're claiming them, parents, if you're claiming your students on your tax return, then their exemptions will be 0. If they're claiming themselves, then their exemptions will be 1. You won't be able to claim them also. And then, are there any additional financial information or untaxed income? So we talked a little bit about that before. And then what's in their cash, checking, and savings, their investments. Remember, that's the UTMA or the UGMA. And then, do they own a business or a farm? And then you'll want to keep going through the application. I think some of us, we were talking a couple of days earlier, some families, about signing and getting your confirmation page and following the financial aid process all the way through to the end. And by submitting this application, yes, you've absolutely completed the application process, but financial aid keeps going. There's still a lot more to be done. And that's why I want to invite you to sign up for our whole webinar series, because we are going to talk a little bit about the next webinar in March. We're going to talk about verification and comparing colleges. And then in April, we're going to talk about, I know some of you have heard that financial aid is changing, or it has changed. So what we're doing right now is sort of, let's just call it the old way, which is every January 1st, the FAFSA has gone live on January 1st. And now, starting this next year for rising juniors and for continuing students, it will actually go live on October 1st. So this is the last time we're going to do the January 1st, and you'll hear all about that, and you'll also get a lot of emails from the Department of Ed letting you know about the changes. And I'll keep you up to date through all of our webinar series through the whole year so that you know exactly what's happening. So if you tune in here, please be sure to tell your friends, tell family members, tell everyone that this is the place where you're going to get all the information you need to keep you going through all of 2016. Okay, so let's get through. We have about 2 more pages to go, and then we definitely want to get to questions, 100%. So this is the student's signature. The student needs to sign and agree that everything that they're submitting is correct and accurate. So they're going to press agree. And if they've logged in with their FSA ID, they'll be able just to sign immediately. And then for this scenario, we have mom. Mom is going to have all of her information in here. She's going to agree. And let's say mom didn't complete her FSA ID application in the beginning of the form. She can create it now. See where it says create FSA ID, or I forgot my username or password. It's very friendly in the way it draws you to where FSA ID lives and helps everyone to get their FSA ID. It must be signed by the student and by the parent or one of the parents if it's a 2-parent household. And then you're still not done. You still need to follow all the way through to the end. You'll see the blue Submit My FAFSA Now button on the bottom, and you'll hit that, and then you'll get your confirmation page. And your confirmation page will let you know that your application has been submitted, and that you can also, if there's a sibling, you can use that link to transfer your information into the new application. You can fill out your state application if you have a state application. It also lists all the schools that the student is applying to. If they're applying to 10, all 10 would be listed here. And then, like I said earlier, if you have more, you can do more on a second transaction. And then it'll also have your estimated expected family contribution of what that's going to be. And then on the right side, if you're eligible for free money like federal grants or for state grants, will not be listed on here. I just want everyone to know your state grant is not listed. This is only a federal form. And then if your student is eligible for a direct Stafford loan, it might be listed here. If it's a freshman student, it might be $5,500, or a sophomore student, it might be $6,500. or a junior student, it might be $7,500. So this will give you an idea, but you're still waiting for your student aid report or your SAR to be emailed to you. So that is the application. And I think we've pretty much covered everything as far as getting a couple examples for you. But what I was interested in is answering some of your questions. I'm going to read some questions and answer them because I'm sure some of you have other questions. Oh my gosh, we had so many questions. Alex, you should see her. She's like, you guys have to meet her. She's great. Okay, so this is from, I'm just going to use first names. This is from Linda. Linda says, for a college graduating senior, how does she declare herself independent and apply to FAFSA on her own without parental support in reference to grad school aid? So remember those 13 questions that you answered about dependency eligibility? So if she's already completed her undergraduate and going for her master's, if you selected yes on that, because on our particular one, we selected no, and I'll actually go back to that for you. And so the questions are right here. So this will automatically trigger the FAFSA to let them know that, yes, that student is eligible to be an independent student if they've done their undergraduate degree. It's the third question from the top. So Linda, I hope that answers your question. And then from John, do I need to file my 2015 taxes before I file the application? You absolutely do not. And I'm going to refer to each of the slides to answer the questions because, like I said earlier, I'm definitely a visual learner. So see where it says income estimator? You use your estimated income in order to submit the form. You want to get it in early and meet all your deadlines, your state deadlines and everything. Howard, I've heard that the order in which your college C are listed, does that make a difference? And can you please speak about this? Okay, yeah, absolutely, Howard. So that is definitely a trigger question that everyone has. So for the first year ever, colleges are not going to see how you list your colleges. They aren't even going to see the list of college. If you want to do it in alphabetical order, you could do it in alphabetical order, but they don't see it. They're only going to see their own college on their side at all. So this is the first year. The Department of Ed heard everyone and they changed it. So I hope that answers your question, Howard. Okay, and then the next question comes from a parent and she's saying, if I am remarried, do I need to include step parents info? So Alex is showing me on another computer. I have to tell you guys, like I couldn't see it. So she had to make it like 10 times the font. Okay. For those of you who know me. So yes, step parents are included. So if you're remarried, so you would select the drop down where it says your marital status. And if you're remarried, then step parents are included. And it clearly says in the directions here, father, mother, or step parents' last name. I also have a question, I guess from Vicky, asks the same thing. If I'm remarried, do I need to include my new husband's income? Yes, yes, yes. From Julie, we got an email asking my student to finish and submit the application. What does this mean exactly? So some parents might have gone in or students might have gone in and started their application. And if you start and then log out and save, then the application will save and you'll get an email in a couple days that will say, you've started an application. Do you want to finish it? Or do you know, or do you remember? It's just a gentle reminder. So take it as a gentle reminder. Okay. And I'm moving on to Stephen. Stephen asks, does a 529 account go under students' total investments? No, Stephen. A 529 account goes under it's a parent investment and it goes under the asset box. Okay. And then another question came in is, does the household size have to match the exemptions? No, the household size does not have to match the exemptions. So I hope whoever asked that question, that helps them out. Then we have Molly. We have Molly, and she says, do scholarship amounts received have to be reported to the IRS? So if the scholarship was sent to your student and it's not going to be on your tax return, and then it doesn't need to be reported. It depends on how much money. I would give it to your accountant and ask them, but it does not have to be reported on your tax return. Okay, I have more questions, so feel free. Alex is typing away. She's going really fast. So I have a few more questions. If you did not fill out the FAFSA the first year, can you fill it out and submit in subsequent years if your situation has changed? So if you didn't fill it out freshman year and the student is going into their sophomore year, yes, you should fill it out. Yes, 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 yes. Fill it out. And the financial aid office at the college that your student is going to will review it, and they'll consider that their first year. And there's actually a question: is this your first year applying, or have you applied before? And I'm going to kind of show you that. I don't know who asked this question, but there's a question in the very beginning that asks that. And here's the question: never attended college. This is my first year, and this is my first time applying for financial aid. Okay. And then we have another question that says, do some schools require the application for merit awards to be granted? So I have been hearing lately that some colleges are asking for the application to be on file. So it's free. We've gone through the whole thing. I think that everyone should fill it out and send it in. And that way you won't miss out on opportunities to receive merit money, need-based money, or what's ever eligible for your family. I have another question that says, how long does it take to generally fill out the application? So if you have everything ready, you'll need your driver's license, social security, everybody's birthday, your bank statements, your tax returns, W-2s. If you have new ones, you can use your 2015, or if you have last year's, you can use 2014. If you have everything on your desk or wherever you're doing it, on the table, in a folder with a pencil and a paper and a calculator, you should be able to do it within about 30 minutes, as long as you have everything. If you aren't able to go straight through the whole application, feel free to save it and come back and finish it for the questions that you weren't able to answer. Okay. Alex, do you have more questions? Will schools use the FAFSA info to determine admissions? No, they don't use it to determine admissions. There's an admissions department, and the admissions staff are the people who are evaluating the admissions applications, and financial aid is in a whole nother section of the college, maybe down the hall, maybe in another building, but they evaluate your eligibility for financial aid separate from your admission. I hope that answers that question. Are you safe to use, have another question. Are you safe to use 2014 tax return if you do not believe your financial situation is much different? I say that you're very safe if your finances look pretty close to last year. Then absolutely 100% use 2014, because remember, you are going to be logging in and using the IRS data retrieval tool to update your application. So you'll be able to draw in the corrected information, and then colleges will see the estimated, and then they'll see the corrected, and they're going to need to see corrected anyways. So yes, get it in now, early, before priority deadlines, so that you meet all the college deadlines. Okay, Alex says we have another question. In the school section, what to do if you do not know if the student will be living on campus or off campus? So if you're not sure, let's say it's a continuing student, for example. I had a lot of questions like this yesterday. If I would go ahead and put that as living on campus, and then if that changes, then you can go ahead and either update your application or let the school know or the financial aid office know that the student is now going to be living off campus. But if they don't have an apartment right now and they're a continuing student, because it's kind of up in the air. I know how sophomores are usually deciding in January, and it's kind of an iffy, like, do they have roommates and stuff like that? So I know that they're like kind of pairing off now. So go ahead and put on campus for now, and then you can go back and change it if the student decides that they are going to move off campus and live in an apartment. Okay, so I have another question. How do we submit the FAFSA to more than 10 schools? Okay, so you ready? Here's how it goes. If there's 15 schools on the list, we'll just use an example. So yesterday, we had a family at the financial aid night at the high school at Marina, and the student was applying to 15 schools. So you're going to put the first 10 on, and once the first 10 are on, the student will receive an email confirmation that the application has been submitted and confirmed. And then 3 days after that, approximately, the student will receive another application. That's their student aid report or their SAR. Once they receive the 2 emails, they can then log back into their application, and they can remove 5 of the schools and then add the new 5. And then there'll be 2 transactions on the central processing system, and the colleges will go in and draw the application into their college. So I hope that answered your question. And I think we have time, Alex, we have a couple more minutes for a few more questions. I have one on my side over here. What information will be asked from you both as you fill it out as verification? Okay, so verification is something we're going to talk about in webinar series number 2, which is in March, but we'll talk a little bit about that right now. So sometimes you're asked verification questions like household size, and these questions might be in forms of documentations that live on your student portal. So your students, if they have already sent in their admission applications, maybe they received a login and a password to go into their student portal. They should log in, check out their student portal. In their student portal might be some verification documents. If they have verification documents like household size or income verification or asset verification, parents and students need to fill those out. The parent needs to sign it and the student needs to sign it and get it back to the college financial aid office ASAP quickly so that they can continue working on your file. Do you feel the information you are submitting is secure? Yes, I think the FAFSA is very secure, and the information that you're submitting to the colleges, they keep in a very secure place, and everything is confidential. So yes, it's very secure. And weighing the cost benefit of sharing this financial information, are you likely to receive aid is low? I don't think so. If you're eligible for financial aid, there is a certain criteria. There's federal methodology. It's actually a formula. So it's a formula of whether you're eligible or not. So I think if you're concerned about whether you'll qualify or not, whether it's secure or not, the biggest, what they're saying, the Department of Ed, the biggest mistake that parents are making and families are making is by not applying. So we encourage you to apply. It's important to apply and then keep all the doors open for admissions. You kept all the doors open when the student was applying for admissions, and you want to keep all the doors open for financial aid too. So Alex, do we have like one more question before we sign off? We have about 4 more minutes or so. I wanted to remind everyone, if you wanted to ask questions, you can locate me on Twitter, Jodi Okun. I'm always on Twitter, and I also run College Cash, which is a chat every Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. So we invite different guests to appear on Twitter, and we talk about everything that has to do with the college process. And also, my website is College Financial Aid Advisors. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, especially after the webinar. And you can take a look at the future webinars that we have, and they're listed there, and sign up. We're going to take you through verification process. We're also going to take you through comparing college, direct costs, indirect costs, loans, grants, scholarships. We're going to talk about the difference, what it means to take out a loan, what it means to have a grant and scholarship, And then we're going to move into the new way. So as I said earlier, financial aid, this is going to be the last time that the application goes live on January 1st, starting October 1st of 2016. It will go live on October 1st, and we'll do the whole process again. And we'll talk about that in April. I think it's great that we finished the process, and I hope that you guys have gotten great information today. Alex, if there's nothing else, are there any last questions where they've been asking the question all the time? Yeah, feel free to email us, and she's typing, very diligent, answering everyone. And I really enjoyed, we are going to have a recording of this webinar posted on the website, and you'll probably receive an email. So thank you all for coming tonight. It's been great, and I hope that you've all your questions have been answered, and that sort of helps you with your nerves on the application. Take care, and see you guys all very soon.